Guide for buying a car. I am pleased to welcome David Loeb as our car buying expert. After graduating from Tulane Law, David joined the Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office, where he was a trial assistant until 1985. Then he went into private practice, where he remained until the end of 2016 when he retired from private practice law. Loeb was primarily engaged in land use law and automobile dealership law. He has also engaged in various businesses, including real estate development and investment and automobile dealerships. Loeb is a member of the National Association of Dealers Council and National Automobile Dealers Association. So we thank David so much for taking the time out of his day to be our car buying expert. So without further ado, here's David.
Good morning. As we go through the presentation, if you have questions about what's on the screen or anything that we've discussed while that slide is up, please raise your hand either physically or through the Zoom thing, and we'll talk about those issues then. Since we only have 2 live participants at this point, if you have other questions, go ahead and ask them whenever they occur to you, and we'll try and deal with them at that point. At this point in your lives, I'm going to guess that buying a car is a pretty major investment for you. Hopefully later in your careers, it will not make as much of a difference as it does now. But for now, there's some things that you should be aware of as you go through that process. So the first thing you need to decide is, how much money do you want to spend? Always set your budget before you start your shopping experience, because it's always easy to say, oh, well, just a few more dollars and I can have a whatever. But set your budget as early in the process as you can. I presume you're going to want to finance a car, which I generally recommend because it's a good way for young people to start building credit. And so first thing you need to know is, what is your credit score? And those credit scores are available to you through the credit reporting services, and they're generally free. And they will tell you if there are issues in your credit history. And if there are, you need to resolve those as much as you can. Do you have cash or trade as a down payment? If you currently have a vehicle, what's it worth? How much cash do you have? If you're trying to determine what your trade is worth, there are several online value guides. But you got to take those numbers with a grain of salt. Used car prices fluctuate wildly in a matter of days. And you can get a quote one day from a dealer that he's going to offer you so much for a trade. You go back a week later and all of a sudden the number's different. But you need to know what the range is when you walk in. And so Edmunds, Kelly's Blue Book, those are all good sources. And when you go to those sources, they're going to ask you about value, about condition of your car. Be candid, mostly candid with yourself. Most people want to think their car is in better condition than it really is. But the guides will give you a good idea of what your current vehicle is worth. One of the nice things about using your current car as a trade-in as opposed to going to sell it to a third party is that whatever the value is of your trade gets deducted from the purchase price of the new car for sales tax purposes. So you're only going to pay sales tax on the difference in value between your old car and your new car. So even though you might be able to sell your old car privately, you've got to factor in what the differential in taxes are going to be when you do that. Next thing you need to figure out is, how much money per month are you willing to spend? And as I said earlier, it's easy to say, oh, the note's only going to be a few dollars more to get the next better vehicle, but at some point that's going to catch up to you. So, do you want to buy a new vehicle or do you want to lease a new vehicle? Leasing has its limitations. And the first is, how many miles do you drive in a year? If you drive more than 12,000 miles a year, the chances are that a lease is not for you. If you drive less than that, it's something you might want to look at. When you're looking at leases, you also have to consider your insurance cost. When you buy a vehicle, you can pretty much decide how much insurance you want to carry on that vehicle, as long as your lender has enough property damage to cover the value of the loan. When you lease a vehicle, the lessor is probably going to make you carry considerably larger limits than the law requires, and that can add to the cost of the lease. So that's something to think about as you analyze whether the lease or the purchase is better. What is the residual value of the car going to be at the end of the lease? Can you buy it at the end if you want it? Or must you turn it in? There are some leasing companies who will not allow you to buy the car at the end of the lease. You have to turn it in, and that residual value becomes important because if you've exceeded your mileage limit, then you could be liable for the difference in residual values based on the mileage. The other thing to remember is when you lease a vehicle, there's no equity bill. So there's nothing for you to trade in at the end of the lease. The car gets turned in, it's gone, you have nothing left. When you buy a vehicle, the car is going to depreciate, and we've all heard that joke about the minute you drive it off the lot, it's worth half of what you paid for it. That's not quite true, but it does have some merit to the statement. In general, your Japanese brands, Toyota, Honda, tend to depreciate the least. English brands tend to depreciate the most. And German brands can bite you if you get close to the warranty limit. German cars have a reputation of being very expensive to maintain. And if you have one that is out of warranty, you can expect to take a pretty significant hit on its valuation. Again, Edmunds and Kelly's Blue Book are good sites that can help you estimate what your depreciation might be. What do you want to drive? Some people want an image car. Some people just want an appliance. That depends on you. I'm kind of a car nut, so I kind of like to have certain kinds of cars to drive. My brother is one of these people that the car is nothing more than an appliance to get him from point A to point B, and he could care less about what it is that he's driving. It just depends on your tastes. But be realistic about what you're going to do with a car. If this is an image car for you, be careful. You can spend a lot more money than you intended to. If this is just an appliance, then again, be careful. You want to make sure that you have something that's going to actually get you from point A to point B when you want to go without a lot of drama. Also, I should say, be careful about analyzing what kind of car you want. Be realistic with yourself about how you're going to use this car. As I say in the slide, do you need room for a big pet? Do you need room for project supplies? Or is it just you getting from work to home and back? All right, so now you know what kind of vehicle you want or need. You need to decide whether you're going to buy a new car or a used car. Um, Here's where your budget comes into play. The initial thought usually is a used vehicle is going to be cheaper. That's not always true. If you're going to finance a vehicle, the new car interest rates are going to generally be significantly less than the rates on a used car. So when you're comparing the new to used, also compare the note that you're going to pay. And it may be that the new car is the better choice. Also, the new car comes with a factory warranty, uh, and maintenance during your ownership can also be a factor. Again, think about what kind of car you're going to buy. Will unexpected repair costs cause a financial hardship, or can you absorb those unexpected repair costs if they occur? If you buy a used car, my recommendation is to always buy the extended warranty plan. You'll have options to buy all sorts of stuff when you finance a car, but the warranty is the key. There are thousands of man-made parts that go into these cars, any one of which can fail, and they usually do. And in modern cars, because of the amount of computerization that has gone on, the cost to repair some of these computer modules is staggering. So I highly recommend buying the extended warranty plan. If you're buying a new car, you can defer purchase of the warranty plan until you run out of your new car warranty. The advantage of buying the extended warranty when you buy the new car at the same time is that you can finance the cost of the new car warranty into the cost of the car. So you don't have to come up with a couple of $1,000s at the end of the new car warranty to buy your used car warranty. If you're going to buy a vehicle without a warranty, think about the repair and reliability history on those cars. And again, you can get that information out of Edmunds and Kelly's Blue Book and online forums. That's pretty easy to determine. In general, American brands, Ford, Chevy, Chrysler is not really an American brand anymore. But Ford and Chevy tend to be the easiest and least expensive to repair. German brands are the more expensive to repair. If you buy a Mercedes or a BMW without a warranty, have a nice savings account just in case. When you're buying a car, you're going to finance it, you're also buying money. And money's a commodity just like anything else. And you should shop for your money just like you shop for a car. All new car dealers will offer you financing. And in many cases, they can offer you better interest rates than you can get elsewhere because the manufacturers will subsidize those rates. In the olden days, we used to see 0% financing as incentives on a pretty regular basis. That hasn't happened in the last 2 or 3 years, although I saw that Toyota came back with that just a couple of months ago. So look around for that. I know that Tulane has a credit union for the students, and credit union interest rates generally are as good or better than the rates that you can get from a dealer. So check your credit union. You can get your credit union rate before you go to the dealership. They'll give you a quote in advance. And so when you walk into the finance office, you can tell the finance manager, look, I can get 3% from my credit union. Can you beat that? You also need to think about how long do you want to finance the car? This will also depend on whether you've got a new car or a used car. Financing for longer terms is generally available for new cars. shorter for used cars. If that monthly note is important to you, and for most people it is, again, the new car may be the cheaper option because the monthly payment may be smaller. One, because the interest rate should be lower, and two, because you can finance it over a longer period of time. A 3 to 5 year term is generally what we consider typical, but longer terms are available, and it depends on the kind of car you buy. If you're going to buy a fairly unreliable car, you don't want a long-term note. If you're going to buy something that has a history of being very reliable, fairly bulletproof, then the longer term will work. It used to be that when a customer came into our dealership, they had no idea what we paid for the car. Today, if you go online, you can tell pretty much to the dollar what we as the dealer paid for the car that you're looking for. I suggest that you go online and you look for that. Now, that won't tell you everything there is to know because there are manufacturer incentives to the dealer. We may have a car that's been sitting on the lot too long and we need to move it. We may have incentives from the manufacturer if we sell so many of a certain type. And if you come and buy that type, I'm likely to give you a better price on it so that I can get the incentives from the manufacturer. It's a very complicated formula to deal with. But you should know in general what the dealer has paid for the car that you're looking for so that you can be comfortable that you're being treated well. So just like financing and the car, insurance is also a commodity. And you need to shop for your insurance before you go to the dealer. In all cases, the dealer's not going to let you walk out of the car, that dealership with the car unless there's insurance on it. And that's particularly true if there's any financing involved. So you need to have that insurance in place before you close the deal with the dealer. If you have coverage for an existing car, that policy will generally cover your new car for a very limited period of time, really just enough time for you to contact your broker and have him or her get the information for the new car. They'll need VIN, mileage, make, model, all that sort of thing. Typically 30 days is all you're going to get for that transfer type coverage. So in addition to the premiums, the other thing to consider when you talk shopping for insurers is what does their claims handling record look like? There are some insurers, I'll even mention names, Allstate for one, that have terrible reputations for paying claims. There are other insurers, Geico for one, who are very easy to deal with when handling claims. Cheap insurance that doesn't pay a claim is not cheap. So as you shop for your insurance, also check their claims history and their premium costs.
David, there is a question about that slide from Lance Tolson. He wrote in chat, where on Edmunds/Kelly Blue Book does it show what the dealer paid? They said that they couldn't find he was late to this, so he apologized if it was covered already.
No, I'm not exactly sure where on the website you can go to, but if you go to the section that talks about the vehicle that you're looking for, it should give you a dealer's cost as part of its analysis of the vehicle. If you have a particular vehicle in mind, you'll have a VIN number. You can also plug those VIN numbers into these websites, and they will give you an estimate of cost. There are a couple of used car dealers like Carvana that will give you valuations online based on your VIN number and maybe a few photographs. So I hope that helps you. Does that answer the question?
There's been a response. Let me see. Thank you. So that's
Okay.
it.
All right. So you've done your homework. You know what your credit score is. You know what kind of car you want. You know how much money your trade is worth. You know how much cash you have to put down. You've checked out your financing with your credit union. You've got an idea of your insurance cost. Let's go talk to the dealer who has the car that you want. Don't be afraid to tell the dealer what you know. When you come in prepared and they can tell that you're prepared, they will treat you as if you know what you're doing, and you'll have a better experience for it. And when the dealer knows what it is you're looking for and what your pricing is, he can direct you better to the car that will suit your needs than if you go in and you say, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I can pay. You're going to be there forever trying to figure that out. So share what you've learned with the dealers, salesman, and it'll go a lot faster and a lot smoother. Questions to ask the dealer when you've identified a car that you're interested in. How long has it been in inventory? As a dealer, the longer I hold a car, the more expensive it is for me to keep that car because I'm paying interest on floor plans. Model years are creeping past me. Manufacturer incentives are dissipating. I want to move the metal. So if I have a car that's been there too long, I'm much more likely to give you a better deal on that than a car that's fresh. You want to know what factory incentives are available. And those incentives can vary, can be cash back, they can be in discounts on financing, all sorts of things. Again, don't be concerned about making the dealer run through the numbers in various scenarios. That's what they're there for. We're happy to do that for you. And then you can decide whether it's better to take the cash or take the incentives. You never know. If you think the leasing is a viable alternative for you, as we discussed earlier, ask the dealer for what leasing plans may be available and ask him to run the numbers on the leasing plans for you. Again, not a problem for us. We're happy to sit there as long as you want to run these numbers so that you can figure out what's best for you. So you've picked out your car, you've agreed on a price, you're now going to go into the financing office and they're going to want to sell you various items. These could be extended warranties, security features, paint sealers, interior sealers, credit life insurance, and the list goes on and on and on. If you're buying a new car, as we said earlier, you can delay buying the extended warranty until just before the factory warranty expires. If you buy it at the same time you buy the car, you can finance it into the cost of the car. If you're buying a used car without a factory warranty, always buy the extended warranty. I can't stress that enough. Particularly for young people who don't have a lot of cash reserves, getting that surprise bill for a couple of $1,000s because a computer module went out is not a happy day. Security systems and etching, I'm kind of ambivalent about these. Very often your insurance company will give you a discount on your insurance rates if you have the etching or the security system built in. kind of depends on where the numbers fall for you on that particular car. Don't buy paint sealers, interior sealers, or credit life insurance. Good dealers don't even offer them anymore. Um, we will offer them, but we will tell people we don't recommend them. Um, I think it's a waste of money. All right. You've picked out your car. You've got your financing in place. You've got your insurance in place. You've bought the extended warranty if you think you need it. It's time to go get your car. If it happens to be something in inventory, you're lucky. You can leave with it that day. That is becoming more and more the exception and not the rule. Dealer inventories these days are short, and the chances of them having exactly what you want in stock are not good. So even before you go, be prepared to wait for the car that you really want. Typically, we can locate a car for you that is either exactly what you asked for or very close to it from another dealer, and we can get that for you within a matter of sometimes days, sometimes weeks. It just depends on where the car is and what the other dealer wants in exchange for the trade. But that's something that occurs between the dealers. That's not something that you really need to be concerned about, other than to the extent of the delay that it may take to get the car to you. If you have to order a vehicle, that can take a month to several months, again, depending on, is this car coming from overseas? Is it something that's built in the United States? Just depends on the vehicle. I recently bought I bought for myself an American vehicle. It was a vehicle in pretty high demand, and even as a dealer, it took me about 2.5 months to get the car. I recently helped a very good friend buy a car that's actually still built in Japan. Believe it or not, most of the Japanese cars that we sell are built in the United States, but this particular model was built in Japan, and it took like 5 months to get the car. So it just depends. So that's the presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them for you now.
Yeah, David, I have a question. So I don't know if this is a myth or not, but you're welcome to bust it. But we always hear like going into car dealerships, you should be like presenting yourself in a certain way, asking the right questions. Like if you act like you're in desperate need of a car, they might not work out a better deal for you. Or if you really, really, really like a car that's on the lot, that they might not work out a better deal for you. Or if uh yeah, just stuff like that. Does any of that like ring true? Or I know you mentioned just ask as many questions as you possibly want while you're at the dealership. Just trying to see like if that holds
If,
true at all.
if you walk into a dealer and you say, I want a car, but I don't know what I want and I don't know how much I can pay, you're a sitting duck. And yes, there are dealers that will take advantage of you if you walk in unprepared. If, on the other hand, you walk in prepared and you say, this is the type of vehicle I'm looking for, this is what I'm willing to spend for it, I have my quote from my credit union available, I have my quote from my insurance company available, they know you're prepared, they will treat you as such. But don't walk into the dealership saying, I just want something pretty. You're toast.
Good to know. Thank you.
Well, I hope I've covered it all for you. Um, again, I'll just reiterate, preparation is the key to having a good experience. Do not be concerned about sharing your preparation with the dealers, salespeople, and finance people. The more you can tell them about what you want, the quicker, easier, and happier your experience will be.
So we have one question in the chat as well. So how really willing are dealers to deal these days? A lot say MSRP is the best that they can do.
On certain models, that's correct. On certain models, if you want to go buy that brand new Corvette, you're going to pay over sticker for that because they're in short supply. On the other hand, if you're going to go buy an F-150, a Toyota Camry, the dealers are going to sharpen their pencils real close because they move a lot of those kind of cars, and a little bit of profit on a lot of cars adds up. And that's why the preparation is important. I know, people go in and they'd love to have that fancy sports car. They want that Ferrari, but really what they need is a Camry. Be realistic. Look for the Camry, not the Ferrari.
All right, we have another question. We have a couple. So, do you have any tips for negotiating the price?
Yeah. Ask the dealer, how long has this car been in inventory? What kind of incentives are there on this car? Tell them I looked at Kelley Blue Book and it told me that the car that you spent so much for the vehicle. What can you do to get close to that price for me? Again, if you do your homework and you're prepared and you have that information, when the dealer says this is our cost, you can challenge them. Well, Kelley Blue Book says it was $1,000 less. Why is your cost more?
All
There's
right.
this myth out there about asking the dealer to show you their invoice. That really doesn't tell you the story because the invoice doesn't talk about dealer incentives, doesn't talk about how much money the dealer is going to get back for floor plan financing, for stair stepping, meaning if we sell so many of a certain kind of car, we get so much money back per car from the manufacturer. The invoice doesn't talk about any of that. So asking for the dealer's invoice, it's a waste of time. Because it doesn't tell you the story.
All right. And the other question is, someone wrote, I recently learned a little bit about car brokers. I've learned dealers don't really like them because they undercut the price of the vehicle. Is this true? Is it then worth it to get a broker?
Brokers are a relatively new phenomenon. Um, I don't think you get much better deal from through a broker than you would yourself if you go in prepared. Because what the broker does is he knows exactly what the dealer has paid for the vehicle. He knows what you can afford to pay, and all he's doing is matching one with the other. If you've already done the homework about what you can afford, what your interest rate's going to be, and all the other things we've talked about, and you let the dealer know that, they're going to give you the same price they're going to give a broker. So the brokers have more of a role on the used car side where they can go find a vehicle for you. Cuts out a lot of legwork for the buyer. Does it reduce the price any? I'm not convinced that it does.
All right. And then the last question is, does it ever really work to walk?
To do what? I'm sorry.
To walk?
So to walk away from the deal
Yes.
and come back to the same dealer?
Lance, you want to hop on just to clarify the?
Yeah,
Go
can
ahead,
you can
Lance.
you can you can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, hi, fine. David, how you doing? First of all, thanks a lot. Really helpful stuff. I've seen where there are people who say, look, we just can't make a deal. I'm going to walk. And, you hear the stories, they get out the doors and toward their car, and the guy comes out and he goes, no, come on back. Let's make a deal, stuff like that. Do theatrics like that really work? Or truthfully, is it now to the point where this is more of a science to where either you can strike a deal or you can't?
Well, I will tell you that I have fired more than one salesman for doing that kind of thing. Um, some of the salesmen, they will try and take advantage of a customer, and the customer will balk and walk out, and the salesman will run back out and try and grab them and say something like, "Oh, well, my manager said." That's a bunch of crap. And when I catch people doing it, they're gone. Can I tell you that doesn't happen anymore? I can't. But we don't like it. We don't encourage it, and we try to avoid it as much as possible.
Yeah, that was going to be kind of my thought too, is that in today's age, and I will say this, I'm shopping for a new car right now. That's why I came on to listen to this, truthfully. And David, is it now that really they've gotten the message that high pressure sales in most of the markets don't really work? Because I've had a couple of people, I've gone and they got my information and I said, let me get back to you. I thought they would actually, try to hit me up and go, "Hey, can we do business? Anything?" I haven't heard a peep out of a lot of these people. Is the new normal in these kind of they let you kind of futz around it on your own for a while, and then when you're really interested, you'll come in. I guess I was used to a little more aggressive salesmanship back, when I bought my last cars years ago.
Well, the fact is, most buyers now are pretty sophisticated.
Yeah,
They've done the homework that we've talked about.
yeah.
So it doesn't do us a lot of good to engage in those high pressure tactics. And we find that it doesn't build long term relationships. What most dealers depend on, and what we certainly depend on, is repeat business. Most of our customers have bought cars from us in the past. Um, and so that high pressure stuff just it doesn't build good customer relationships. And so we try not to do it. Again, will I get an overly aggressive salesman every now and then? You bet. And we try and train them not to do that. And when they won't listen, they go somewhere else. One of the most difficult things for car dealers these days is turnover in the sales force. Um, I'm proud to say that many of our salespeople have been with us for 20 years and more, but we do have turnover in those newer positions, and it's a fact of life.
Okay,
How about
very, very,
you?
very, very helpful. Thank you very much.
Any additional questions?
Trevor, I can't see questions or comments, so I'll have to rely on you for that.
That sounds perfect. Well, I don't see any more questions, so just thank you all for taking the time out of your day to attend this session. I hope you got a lot out of it. I certainly did, and thank you so much, David, again for coming on to educate us about buying a new car. It's been great. So thank you all so very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Happy to do it, and I hope I was helpful.
Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.